mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2013 ASCA webinar series. Today's installment is going to be ASCA National Model Management, and our presenter is Dr. Eric Sparks. Before we get started, I just wanted to touch on a few technical parts of the webinar. The first thing is you probably heard that you are in listen-only mode, and what listen-only mode means is that you're not going to have the ability to talk during the webinar, but it doesn't mean that we don't want you to participate. So in the menu that came up in GoToWebinar, you should have a section called Chat and Questions. Any questions you have throughout the presentation, whether they be technical or about the actual presentation, you put them in there, and I will respond to those technical ones immediately and save the rest until the end, and then I'll relay them to Eric for you. The second thing is we are recording this webinar, so it will be available on demand from the ASCA Webinar Archive section, and I'll put up that link for you here in just 1 minute. So it will be available in the next couple days, as well as a PDF version of the PowerPoint presentation. Now I'd like to introduce our presenter, which is Eric Sparks, and he is an ASCA Assistant Director and the former school counseling supervisor for Wake County Public Schools in North Carolina. He's a former ASCA president, as well as a past president of the North Carolina School Counselor Association. Then I'm going to pass it on to Eric.
Well, thanks, Jeff, and thanks everybody for joining us today for this installment of the ASCA National Model Series. For a lot of you may be aware, this is our third in this series on the third edition of the ASCA National Model, which was released last June. And so we've been going through a few different sections of it, and just kind of going through some of the changes and some of the language, some of the new pieces of the model, so that will help you to implement a comprehensive school counseling program at your school or in your district. In our first two sections, or first two webinars on this, we did the first one on the themes and foundations. We talked about the themes of leadership, advocacy, collaboration, and systemic change, as well as the foundation section of the model itself. In our previous segment, we did one on the delivery and talked about the delivery of a comprehensive school counseling program. So this section will focus on the management and some of the tools that are part of the management section that are designed to help you to implement your comprehensive school counseling program and minimize the time that you're spending doing some of these type of activities as opposed to working with direct and indirect services with your students. So that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. So as you're probably well aware, the diamond logo of the model has stayed pretty much the same in the sense of the four components, and then those themes of leadership, advocacy, collaboration, and systemic change around the model. There are fewer words on the diamond itself, and that was by design as we group things together to simplify the model as much as possible to make it as easy to understand and easy to move forward with as possible. So you can see the changes in the third edition in terms of some of the language change and some of the condensing from the second edition to the third edition. But we basically have gone down to two components or two subtopics in the management section of the model, and that's assessments and tools. The specific tools that were listed in the second edition are all a part of the model, but again, just grouped together to help to simplify the logo and the concepts around the management component of the model. We talked in the previous editions of these webinars about how the model has expanded. And while the model itself, the book, has actually gotten smaller, there's actually more information in there based on the things that we've learned over the past 10 years of implementation of the national model from around the country. We've learned a lot from practicing school counselors, from district directors, from counselor educators as we have worked to implement a comprehensive school counseling program. And so we were able to pull that information into this new edition and really expand some of the resources that are available to make implementing a comprehensive model as easy as possible. As we touched on in the last edition of these webinars, the recommended use of time that is set around delivering a comprehensive program is 8% or more of your time in that delivery component. So that really does mean that the foundation, the management, and the accountability sections, those activities that you do within those sections, really should be 20% or less of your time. And the vast majority of your focus is on spending time working with the direct and indirect services with students to help them to be successful. So this just kind of captures that in a visual, just to help remind people that the focus is on the time that you spend with your students, and less time, and actually as little time as possible, on the program planning, the other duties as assigned that often come a part of a regular school day. Let's move into the assessments and talk about some of the assessments that we have in this section of the model. If you're with us in the foundation section, you remember that we talked a good bit about the school counselor competencies. The school counselor competencies are not new in and of themselves, but they are new to the model. So we did pull those in as a part of the foundation, and then as one of the assessments, we created really a checklist where you can do a self-assessment of your competencies to determine which knowledge, skills, and attitudes that you feel you're strongest in, and which you might want to focus on for continual professional growth. So it's a fairly simple checklist of the school counselor competencies that are needed to implement a comprehensive school counseling program. The school counselor competency document itself looks like this. This is the newest version that has been updated with the language and the changes of the third edition of the model. And this is available on the ASCA website. You may have also seen it. You may have also received an email with it a few months ago. But you can go to our website and get a copy of this if you don't already have it. Another assessment that is not necessarily new to the model, but does have a new name, is the School Counseling Program Assessment. And this was previously called the School Counseling Program Audit. Just a slight name change, just in the sense that assessment is something that you do yourself. An audit is often done by someone outside of the program. So just a slight name change, but there's not really much of a change in terms of the concept. The assessment itself, though, has been streamlined and simplified as much as possible to get the most essential components of the comprehensive school counseling program, and to really help you see where you are within that implementation cycle, which areas you might need to focus on more, which areas you already have in place and are moving on smoothly. It may be interesting for you to know, for those of you who are interested in applying for the recognized ASCA model program designation, the RAMP award, the categories and each of these indicators that are lettered are they also correspond with the rubric from the RAMP award. So those match up with the RAMP rubric, so that as you work through this, you're also working towards that program as well, if you would be interested in applying for the RAMP award at some point. A new assessment in the third edition is the school data profile template. And what we heard from school counselors around the country, particularly as they begin to work with data, that sometimes data can be very overwhelming. And just having an understanding of where to start, what type of data to look at, what type of data to collect as baseline data, as well as data to collect after you begin really focusing on a data-driven school counseling program. That was a challenge. So we created this template just to help you to organize your data and to have a better sense of what type of data to look for from your school to help you to make decisions around your school counseling program. This is a template, and like all of our templates in in the models. You can adjust those. You can adapt those to your specific school's information as much as needed. But this will give you an idea of some of the things to look at. So in this particular page, you'll see your general demographic information in terms of enrollment. We've got information on gifted, ESOL, special ed. And then there's some categories around dropout, graduation or promotion rate, attendance, so that you can look at this. And you'll notice that this particular template has 3 columns. That's really designed for multiple school years, so that you can get a longitudinal look at your school from year to year as you make decisions about your program and what areas that you may want to focus on as you develop the components of your comprehensive school counseling program. This is just the second page. Again, it breaks down to categories that are very commonly used in schools and school districts. Students with disabilities, you have behavioral issues like school safety. You have academic information like enrollment in rigorous courses, and as well as the achievement data. And you'll notice that there are quite a few sections of the chart that just say achievement. This third page, you'll see achievement, 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 achievement. And what that is designed, that is by design, and that's so that you can put in as many different achievement type of tests that your school or district or state uses. So you may have multiple achievement tests that are used, and you can collect that information here. So again, feel free to adapt this as needed. A lot of this information you should be able to request from a data manager or an administrator in your building, so that you don't have to collect this by yourself. Most of this data is typically going to be collected, if not all of this data is typically going to be collected in your student information system. So you could ask for specific reports around these areas, and we think that these categories are pretty universal in most of the student information systems around the country. So we hope this will make gathering data and using data to make decisions easier for you in the process of setting up your comprehensive school counseling program. In the model, there is an example of one that is completed, so you can kind of get a sense of how that looks. This is a particular middle school example, but it does give you that sense of what one would look like after you have completed it. Another new assessment in the model, it's new to the model, but it's definitely not a new concept at all, is just the use of time assessment. And this particular assessment is set up as an interactive document. You'll notice that it divides into the direct student services, indirect student services, then you have program management and school support, as well as that last column of non-school counseling tasks. So this particular assessment is set up for a daily usage. So as you may have seen in the model, we do recommend using this assessment or some type of time assessment for a couple of weeks during the school year, so that you can get a general sense of how your time is being spent. You can do this more often if you would like. You can do it as often as you would like, but at least doing it maybe once in the spring, once in the fall, to kind of get a general sense of how your time is spent. If the amount of time that you're spending in particular categories or in other duties is of particular interest to you, or maybe of a specific focus, you might use this more often. And there are other assessments that are out there that do something similar to this, but we created this one to help to make this as simple as possible. You'll notice down at the bottom of the categories that it has percentages. It has percentage per topic and percentage per category. So as you enter information into this template, the time totals, the percentages of each of those will automatically calculate for you. So you can do this, and you don't have to worry about coming up with the specific categories. All those columns at the bottom will automatically tabulate. The way that you get access to this particular template, if you like the automatic feature in it, once you have registered your copy of the national model, you will receive an email with all of these templates in a zip file. So if you look in the front cover of your national model, if you register that code in the front cover, then it will automatically send you all of the templates that are a part of the model. If you have the digital edition, you also receive that as well. So either the digital or the book, you can receive these templates so that you can use them. You can fill in information directly to the template, or you can adapt the template as needed for your school or for your district. Let's just get an estimate of how you spend your time. If you're with us in our last section, or our last webinar, you remember we talked about the different direct and indirect services. And again, as we mentioned earlier, the recommendation is that you spend at least 80% or more of your time in direct and indirect services with students. So let's just take a look at how that works for you. If you can make an estimate of how much time you spend over a school year in direct and indirect services. We know that week to week may be different, and of course day to day is different. There are many different responsibilities and many different things that will come your way on a day-to-day basis. But this is a general estimate of how you spend your time. So it looks like the majority of our group is in that 50 to 80% of the time in direct and indirect services. We got of our participants today, 67% are in the 50 to 80% category. 27% are 80% or more. Again, that's that range that we're looking for. That recommended that 80% of or more of your time is in direct and indirect services. We don't have anybody in that 20 to 49%, but we do have 8% who are in that less than 20% category. So, if you're spending less than 20% of your time in direct and indirect services with students, that's definitely an area that I'm sure you're concerned about. And I hope that some of these tools that we're talking about here today will help you to be able to change that and begin to move more towards that 8% or more of your time in direct and indirect services to students. All right. So those are the assessments in the third edition. Those the new assessments that have been created. So now we want to talk about some of the other tools that are a part of the management component of the model to help you to set up your school counseling program. So you see a listing of these here. Most of these are probably familiar to you. Where we do have a couple that are new, but we'll go through those and kind of talk you through that as we work through these sections or these tools in the management component. So the first is the annual agreement. This has a new title, but is not a new form. This was formerly called the management agreement, and that was changed for a couple reasons. The management term was a little bit problematic for some school counselors around the country, just in that sense of management from a school perspective. So we're thinking through different ways to address that issue. And the annual agreement came into play just to emphasize that this is a document that you should work with every year and present to your administrators once a year so that they understand the goals of your school counseling program, how you're spending your time, your areas of focus, and those types of issues. So it's a two-page document where you see we have you can list your mission statement, you can list your program goals from the foundation component of the model. Then you can share with your administrator how you're spending your time, in delivering the school counseling core curriculum, individual student planning, responsive services, as well as those indirect services around referrals, consultation, and collaboration. And then it helps to show and to emphasize to your administrator that 80% or more of your time should be in those areas of direct and indirect services to students, where 20% or less would be around the program planning and school support activities. It also just provides some real brief places to put information about your advisory council, about the different documents that you have in place. So as you implement the various components of the model, you can check off there, do you have an annual calendar, do you have a curriculum action plan, and you can show your progress towards developing and implementing a comprehensive school counseling program. So there's places for collaboration responsibilities, a budget. If your school has a budget, you can put that in there, or if it doesn't have a budget, you can talk about how you could use some funding for your program. And then some other general information about how the office, and how your office or the student services office or the school counseling office might operate. So just some general organization, and it's something of a springboard to talk with your administrators about the school counseling program, about your goals, about the direction that you want to go to, and then to get some buy-in from your administrators around that. There are some suggestions for setting up and developing your annual agreement in the model. Just help you use it to think through some of the areas to consider. Which the one I want to emphasize the most is having that formal meeting with your principal to go over the agreement. The agreement is helpful in and of itself, just to help get to show what the organization of your office is, but it's even more helpful when you have that time with your administrator to talk about your program goals, talk about areas that you're going to focus on, and get his or her feedback as well in terms of how that's aligning with school goals and missions. And if you're using our templates that are steps through the model, that should continually reinforce connecting with the school's mission, and from a standpoint of what's the appropriate role of a school counselor in helping the school to reach their mission. There's also some information on how to talk about non-school counseling duties, because we know that there are many responsibilities in a school that need to happen to keep a school running safely and orderly, but it's not the school counselor's responsibility to do all of those. We may play a part in some of those, but it's definitely not the school counselor's job to run the school. So there may be some language here to help you to talk about and to have those conversations with your administrator about the importance of spending your time in your school counseling program as opposed to all those other non-school counseling duties that might be out there and sometimes end up coming your way. So just some language to help you to think through that as you have those discussions with your administrators. All right, the next is the advisory council, and setting up an advisory council that will help you to to gain information, that will help you to better understand the needs of your school, and also that will help you to get your message out about what your school counseling program is focused on and how you're working to help students to be successful. This is what we do not want an advisory council to look like, or this. We want to have some kind of happy medium between these two, where we're having some good conversation, we're having some good two-way conversation about the needs of students and the setup of the school counseling program. So in the model, there are there's some different topics within the advisory council section of the model that will help you to think through how to set up an advisory council, anywhere from the goals and objectives, what type of representation you're going to have, who you might want to have on there, all the way down to thinking through your first meeting around your agenda and your minutes. And that goes through. The advisory council is recommended at least twice a year. So you have your key stakeholders who would be a part of that. You would have teachers, maybe an administrator, or definitely an administrator, you may you want to have a parent. Often have a student, and we've seen students on advisory councils from elementary all the way up through high school, and that's definitely a very important perspective. And you're talking with the advisory council about how you make your decisions. You talk about how your data is moving and helping you to focus on student needs. But you're also gaining input from them from their unique perspective to help you to better understand the needs of your school. One thing I always emphasize to school counselors about the advisory council is that the advisory council is not making decisions for you. You're the school counselor. You're the one who has the training in a comprehensive school counseling program, but they do provide helpful feedback and insight from the perspective of someone else other than a school counselor as you make those decisions. They also often become very good advocates for the school counseling program once they have a better understanding of all the things that you do and how you are connecting to the school council or the school's mission and the improvement of student achievement and behavior as well as attendance. We also see many cases where a school board member will be invited to be on the advisory council, and that can be a very powerful experience for the school board member. If you're thinking about doing that, I would definitely encourage you to talk with your administrator about that and have your principal issue that invitation to your school board member. Principals would definitely want to know when a school board member is on campus, and would definitely want to be involved in that decision-making process if a school board member is going to be there. But as we have seen school board members on advisory councils, they often go back to school board meetings and talk about the amazing work that they're seeing from their school counselors. So it can be a very powerful experience for them to understand what you do as a school counselor. The next topic in the management section is on calendars, and there's two different types of calendars that are recommended through the model. One is the annual calendar, which is a listing of all those activities that you do throughout the school year that are part of the comprehensive school counseling program, and you're getting those on your calendar early and really as a part of your calendar early, so that you can make sure that you're planning for those events is really important. If you don't have them on your calendar, it's not unusual to have a school year slip by and you miss the opportunity to do a lot of the activities and a lot of the programming that you want to do for your student development. The other component is a weekly calendar, and just having a weekly calendar where you're planning for a week ahead of time how you typically are going to spend your time during a day. We all know, of course, that issues come up, and your weekly calendar is going to change as you go from day to day. But having a general plan will help you stay focused on the activities that are going to be important for delivering your comprehensive school counseling program, as opposed to just kind of floating in the water as things come along and push you in different directions. You want to have as much control over that as you possibly can within the scope of a regular school day. Another new tool in the management section is the lesson plan template. And of course, this is nothing particularly new, particularly if you have been a teacher before, but it's just a simple one-page outline to help you to organize your lesson and to really focus around what student standards you're going to focus on, what are the objectives of your lesson, and thinking about how you might evaluate your lesson. You're probably you're not going to be collecting data on every lesson that you do, but you may want to collect some data on some of those lessons that you feel are most important, or lessons that are specifically related to your program goals, or lessons that might be around key issues in your school. So you want to get a better sense of how you may be impacting those. So thinking about that process, perception, outcome data that you might want to look at once you have implemented your lesson. So this goes along with the school counseling curriculum action plan. You may develop lesson plans for some of the components that are part of that action plan. and you can use those from year to year to help you stay focused and help you to organize those specific lessons. That moves us into data and thinking about what type of data we might want to look at. If you're familiar with the second edition of the model, most of these terms and concepts will be familiar to you. There is one that is different from the second edition, and that's the outcome data. So process and perception, those have stayed the same, and then the outcome data has a different it's different terminology, but it's the same type of information. This was formerly called results data, but we're referring to it as outcome data just to provide a little bit more clarity. One of the questions that we frequently received with school counselors as they work towards implementing a comprehensive school counseling program was the difference in results data as opposed to process and perception. The title itself may have been some of the confusion with that because process and perception are results. So we've just changed that language to outcome. But the focus is still on the achievement, the attendance, and the behavior of your students and looking at data around that specifically. So let's talk about some of those. Well, actually, we'll come back to that. We'll talk about some specific components around those shortly. We have a couple of templates, or actually, there's 3 templates that are part of the model, and these are part of your action plans. One of which is new, the small group action plan. The school counseling core curriculum and the closing the gap action plans are very much the same as what they have been in the previous editions, and we'll take a look at that. The small group action plan was created just to help you to organize your small groups. We got a lot of feedback that sometimes small groups might have gotten less attention, and so it was designed just to help you to create those and get those organized. So here is the school counseling, the core curriculum action plan. And again, this is one of the templates that you can receive in that download of all those templates when you register your national model. But you can see it kind of helps you think through the why. Why are you implementing this? So that top line is your goal, and you may want to organize your curriculum action plans around your goals. So you might have multiple sheets where you have a specific goal and you have the curriculum activities that go along with that goal. So you might have a separate sheet for each of the goals that you're working towards as you think about kind of the organization of your curriculum. So it helps you to focus on the who. It might be around the grade level. And then it also helps you think about the what. What standards and competencies are you focusing on? What are the curriculum materials that you're working with and are going to be using to help you to reach your goal? Helps you think about when you're going to implement the program. And then you want to think about the expected results. What kind of results are you hoping to find? What type of impact are you hoping that this lesson will have for your students? And that comes around those the process and perception and outcome data that I mentioned earlier. The new action plan is that small group response and services action plan, and you'll see that it looks very similar to the other types of action plans. Again, it's just to help you to organize your small groups. So it'll help you to focus on you focus on the name and the focus of the group, who's going to be in the group, and the number of students that are going to be in the group. Who's going to implement the small group, how many times that you would meet. Typically, that's going to be somewhere between 4 and 10 times that a small group would meet. And then you will, again, focus on the expected outcomes that you're looking for, that process perception and outcome data. The closing the gap looks much the same, and your closing the gap action plan is focused on in any areas of attendance, behavior, or achievement where students are not being successful. So these are typically with smaller groups of students, and they're very focused around specific goals. So it may be that you're trying to improve promotion rates, or you might be trying to decrease suspensions, or decreasing incidents of bullying, or increasing student attendance. So these are very focused on very specific students, and it's a way to help organize the activities that you might want to do. We often get questions about what's the difference in a small group and a closing the gap action plan. And there's one key way that I think will help you to think through that. A small group really is a strategy that could be a part of your closing the gap action plan. You may implement you may implement a small group as one of your interventions with your students, but typically the situations and the data that you're trying to impact is going to take more than just a small group in order to help the student to be successful. So, for instance, you might have a closing the gap action plan to help students to increase their promotion rate. So there may be a group of students after you've reviewed your data that are not. So you may have a small group to focus on them, but at the school or even in the community around possibly around tutoring, around support for many different types of issues to help them to achieve academically. So here under the type of activities, you would list all the different activities that you might do to help to address the issue, and a small group may be one of those. All right, so let's talk about the program results data we talked about. So program results data are that we mentioned earlier. So these are some examples of process data, and you can think about process data about what you did for whom, and it's typically the easiest data to get. So you might be working with 8 fourth grade students or 450 ninth graders, or so these are, you're just collecting data and whatever the activity might have been. So that's very simple information and data to collect. Perception takes it to another level. And perception data is really about what do your students or maybe your parents, what do they think that they know, or what do they believe, or what can they do? So there's different ways you might look at that. You might look at it in terms of attainment of competencies. So you might have a specific student standard and a specific competency that you're hoping the students will attend or will achieve or attain, and then then after you provide your activity or your intervention, you would look to see whether or not they attain those competencies, and that's often done through a pre and post test to see if they understand that. You might also be looking at changes in attitudes and beliefs. So do they feel safe at school? Do they believe that the school is a caring place where adults are there to help them to succeed? You might also look at perceived gains in knowledge, where they feel like they have learned something, or they're more ready to achieve in class. So that's often done again through different ways. So here are some examples of some of the perception data, some perception data that has been collected. So 100% of students can identify 3 career interests, or 89% of students demonstrate that they understand the promotion and retention criteria. So that you can see that these are often done in looking at what students think they know or what they have learned in a particular lesson that you have implemented. Perception data is most often gathered in these types of ways, and you wouldn't use all of these, but you may use one of these to help to gather your perception data around a specific goal that you're working towards. So pre and post test. So if you're doing a classroom lesson, or if you're doing a small group, you might give them a pre-test, and then after you have completed the activity or the group, you can give them a post-test to see how much they learned, or if there was a change in their perspective. Pre and post test, if you're going to use those, it should be pretty simple. 3 to 5 questions is plenty for a pre and post test, and you're typically going to use the same questions for the post test that you would have for the pre-test, just to see where their knowledge has increased over the time that you have spent with them. You could also do a needs assessment to see what student perceptions are, or perhaps parent perceptions or teacher perceptions. You can have a program activity evaluation. So did they like the intervention? Did they find it helpful? Would they recommend it for other students? And you can also do an opinion survey around their perceptions of the school counseling program. So or any activities that they're participating in. So there's a variety of ways that you could collect the this type of perception data. Again, you wouldn't use all of them, but you would use which ones make the most sense in terms of the activities you're providing, and the one that would help you to make the best decisions about whether or not your activity or intervention was effective. So that leads us to outcome data, which really is that ultimate goal that we're working for, and it answers that question of so what. So you did a small group around getting along with others, or you did bullying prevention, or you did college and career planning lessons in the classroom. What difference does that make? So you're really looking at the hard data. You're looking at what impact it's had with students around those areas of attendance, behavior, and academic achievement. And you're looking specifically at that type of data. And here are some examples or one example for each of those categories. So achievement, it may be that you looked at how your promotion rate has changed, and that was an area that you wanted to focus on, increasing your promotion rate. So your achievement. An example of achievement outcome data would be the promotion rate increased from 88 to 94%. The attendance rate, increasing that from 93 to 95%, or reducing the referrals by 30%. So really looking at that hard data around achievement, behavior, and attendance to help to gain a better sense of whether or not students are being positively affected by your school counseling program. So let's do a little quiz here on process, perception, and outcome data. And let's see how you do with this. So let's look at 40% fewer discipline referrals. Is that process, perception, or outcome data? 40% of discipline referrals. All right, very good. It looks like everybody is in agreement that is outcome data. That is exactly correct. This is an example of outcome data. All right, 400 students. Is that process, perception, or outcome? 400 students. It looks like we're mostly in agreement. We have a couple who are looking at this as perception data, but this is actually process data. So it's what you did for whom. So it's basically counting the number of students who could potentially be impacted by your lesson or activity. So 400 students is process data. All right, let's look at this one. 45% of your students feel safe at school. Is that process or perception or outcome data? All right, 95% of us agree that this is perception data. So this is what students perceive about your school. It may be true that students are safe at school, and usually students are safe at school. But if there's only 45% of students who feel that they're safe at school, you know that you have an issue that needs to be dealt with from some way to help more students feel safe at school. More students want to come to school. So we'll do one more. 100% of your students have a graduation plan. Is this process, perception, or outcome data? All right, our votes are coming in a little bit slower on this one. The people are thinking through this, and we're a little bit we're a little bit split on this one. We have 68% feel that this is outcome data, 26% feel this is perception data, 5% feel that it's process. And this is actually an example of perception data. This is somewhat of well, it's definitely a tricky question, just because of the nature of this type of activity. As the model defines process, perception, and outcome data, this is really a perception, an example of perception data, in that it's students who know what they need to do to graduate. They know maybe the courses they need or credits or whatever the case may be to graduate, but the parallel in terms of outcome data would be your actual graduation rate. So you can think of a graduation plan or a 4-year or a career plan or a college and career ready plan, whatever your state or district is calling that. You can think about that somewhat the same as you think about competencies. And the competency is that they know they know what's required of them to graduate. That they may have there may be some career competencies in there, that they've connected their courses to the type of career that they want to take or to get involved with. But the actual outcome data would be, did they actually achieve that? Did they actually graduate? Did they actually take the type of courses that they would need to be best prepared for college or career in whatever direction that they're going? So this is perception data, and the equivalent outcome data would be the graduation rate. So sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, but when you're thinking of outcome data, think specifically around achievement, attendance, and behavior, and what are students actually accomplishing as a result of your work through your school counseling program. All right, so that's a lot of information. There's a lot of things we can kind of simply run through these tools and assessments. We know that actually implementing those and working towards those can be somewhat, we may feel somewhat overwhelming. So picking some of these to focus on from one year to the next might be helpful for you. You don't necessarily have to do all of them all in one school year, but you might want to focus on the ones that are going to help you in terms of where you are in implementation of a comprehensive school counseling program. One thing I wanted to bring your attention to that would help you with this is actually from our September and October edition of our School Counselor magazine. And there's an article in here that will help you to think about how to implement as many components as possible in one school year within a comprehensive school counseling program. So there's an article that will help you to think through that, and it will help give you some more direction on maybe where to start if you've not used any of these tools and assessments before. You can log on to the ASCA website. If you click on our publications, it will take you to the magazine, and you can access a digital version of our magazine if you don't have the hard copy handy. So you can always access that digital version by logging into our website. Essentially, that article will kind of talk you through a one-year implementation plan for your model. So while it might seem overwhelming to do all the components of a national model program within 1 year, we see school counselors do that all the time. It's a matter of staying organized and staying really focused, and it definitely can be done. So essentially, that article will kind of lead you through something of a checklist of activities to help you to implement all the components on a month-to-month type of basis. This is also available. This type of checklist is also available through the RAMP program. If you're interested in applying for the RAMP award, there is a similar checklist to this on the RAMP website, which you can get to it at ascanationalmodel.org. That will give you a month-to-month listing of activities you might want to do or components that you might want to focus on each month as you look at applying for the RAMP award. So again, the goal is you spend 80% or more of your time in delivery and 20% or less of your time in the management, the foundation, and accountability. So again, while sometimes it seems overwhelming to look at all these different components of a comprehensive program, once you have completed and have set up the template, once you have filled it out one time, you're often just going back from year to year and reviewing it to make sure that it's still the areas you want to focus on, and you often only have to tweak it from year to year. So getting it done one time will often help you to have that in place for a longer period of time, and you'll find it to be much less time consuming. So to take off as much as you can at a time, and think of it as it's fine to think of it as a multi-year process to implement all these different components. Take it from where it works best for you, but use these to help to move your program forward as you want to develop your best program and provide your best program for the services and for your students at your school. So that's an overview of the management component of the model. Let's open it up to see if we have any questions about this particular component.
There's one in right now, and that question is from Francine. And her question is, if a graduation plan is a tangible document, like a 4-year plan, can that be outcome data if we went from 50% complete to 100% complete?
We would still call that perception data, and that's definitely good progress. If you went from half of your students having a plan to all of your students, that's definitely a good step in the right direction. But it's still, you could have 100% of your students complete the graduation plan, but you could have 25% of your students actually graduate. That's the focus, and that's the outcome that you're looking for from these graduation plans. You have students to complete the graduation plan to help them to reach the graduation, to actually graduate. So it's taking it that step further. So again, it would be that perception data that as a part of what students think they know and what students think they can do. Them actually doing it is where it becomes the outcome.
Okay, that's the only question we have right now. Hold on one second. Francine is responding. So once they reach the goal of graduating because of the plan, it becomes outcome data. Okay, she understands that now.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Well, we don't have any other questions at this point, so I wanted to thank everyone for attending today, and of course thank Eric for a great presentation. If you have other questions, I see Eric's email address is right up on the screen right now. I'm sure that you can email him, and he will certainly get back to you. Like I said before, this will be online. You will be able to view the recording, and I'm going to put that link up right now again. There we go. So you can click on that link, and it will bring you to the webinar recordings. You will need to log in as an ASCA member, though. But thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Good luck in your implementation.